Like, I was shocked by how much history there is to
Of Nessie.
the myth of Nessie.
Yeah.
And the
Crazy.
legend.
It goes back to like Saints time.
Yeah, like,
Columba.
yeah, 565.
Yeah. Jesus.
Like AD 565. Like 500 years after Christ.
Loch Ness.
Mm.
It is the largest body of water in the UK, meaning it can hold all the water from all the lakes in England and Wales put together in Loch Ness. An actual fact I heard about this on a TV show on like Discovery Channel was you can take the entire Earth's population and lie them down flat, like on top of one another, and fit them into Loch. That's crazy.
That's a big.
You know what
that's
that
a
is?
big loch.
It's ample room for a creature to hide. It's pitch black.
Yeah, murky.
It's pitch black.
Yeah,
Because of the peat. Like
peat.
all the runoff from the rivers, like it's all like peat sediment in the water. The peaty particles mean that the visibility under the water.
Peaty particles.
Yeah,
I love
it. Get that up in the wall. Peaty particles is extremely poor, which again, excellent conditions.
You know,
for
they're
a
gonna hide
monster.
somewhere. But like the first sightings, the first modern discussion of a sighting was actually in 1870.
Right.
But that wasn't like reported about until 1930. So 60 years later,
Jesus.
it wasn't reported. But that was like the first like sort of recorded sighting.
Okay.
Someone wrote this down. Like, I saw something strange. It was from D. Mackenzie. He claimed to have seen something wriggling and churning in the water in 1870. Apologies, and that was not published until 1934.
Okay.
But there was sort of some newspapers that were publishing about a creature in the loch before 1934. So there was reports, and there's been like verbal like discussion about a monster or a creature in Loch Ness like well before this, like kind of like common vernacular, like, you know, like local people would know.
Folklore.
Yeah, folklore, exactly.
Yeah.
People would be like, oh, that house is haunted, or that lake has a monster in it, essentially. A newspaper article was written about it in the Inverness Courier, called "Strange Spectacle in Loch Ness."
Ooh.
So this is kind of like, this is like the origin of this becoming popular. 2nd of May 1933. The creature, this is verbose, this is word for word from the article. The creature disported itself, rolling and plunging for fully a minute, its body resembling that of a wheel, and the water cascading and churning like a simmering cauldron. Soon, however, it disappeared in a boiling mass of foam. Both onlookers confessed that there was something uncanny about the whole thing, for they realised that here was no ordinary denizen of the depths, because apart from its enormous size, the beast, in taking the final plunge, sent out waves that were big enough to have been caused by a passing steamer. We talk about there's the famous photograph as well that everyone knows about.
That's the one, the main one, I think. The surgeon's photo.
The surgeon's photograph
shows the head as such.
The little,
this like little, what would you call that?
It's like the neck and the head. Although a lot of skeptics did dismiss it. Some people said, oh, it's driftwood, or it's interesting. An elephant is a common explanation.
An elephant, I heard that.
Because it looks like the trunk of an elephant a little bit.
An underwater elephant.
An underwater elephant. But that's actually an interesting thing. They mentioned that in the 1930s, there and thereabouts, there was a circus. No, genuinely, there was a circus that was like in one of the nearby towns, and apparently they would take their elephants to bathe in the loch.
No way.
Yeah, so an elephant would, like, there has been an elephant in that loch, wading in, washing, and possibly this. That was like it's not very serious, because obviously this guy would have seen an elephant walk in and out. Yeah. But the whole thing was planned. It was a planned hoax. It was a guy who worked for the Daily Mail. Right. And he thought he had discovered Nessie's footprints. Have you heard about this?
No.
So basically he thought he had found Nessie's footprints up near Loch Ness, and he kind of got pictures of it, and he was going to publish it in the Daily Mail. It turns out that was a fake. And that was done by a guy. They took it to like some like zoologist or something like that. And they were like, those are hippopotamus feet.
Right.
So it turns out it had been done by a guy who had gotten like a mold of a hippopotamus foot, stuck it on the end of his umbrella, and then just made indentations in the dirt. And they took pictures of it and they tried to sell it or whatever. And this guy had thought he'd found something significant, but it was obviously a massive fake. And they ridiculed him for it. So he was annoyed with his employer, the Daily Mail, that they'd done this. So this is why he decides to get back at them by pulling a hoax of his own. Right. So he involves a couple of other people. Essentially, they buy a toy submarine out of Woolworths. Yeah. Yeah. Buy a toy submarine out of Woolworths. Yeah. There's this guy who's kind of like talented with wood. Mm-hmm. He puts together the arm-looking thing, the top of it. Yeah. They go in, they put it in the water, they take a bunch of photographs. Apparently, the kind of like I forget what it's called, but the guy who like kind of is in charge of looking after the
Yeah.
lake, he comes along to see what they're doing, and they kind of like panic. They sink the thing. They say they kicked it in under the water, and it's probably still there to this day.
Right.
Took their pictures and went. They asked Wilson, give the pictures to Wilson, knowing that he was kind of like interested in like photography and stuff like that, and then he brought it to the Daily Mail because it wouldn't be linked to the guy
Yeah.
who works at the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
And then this got published and exploded. By 1989, it was revealed in a book called "The Surgeon's Photo Exposed" that it was a fake. I kind of ended that, but obviously that doesn't really get publicized that well. Like a lot of people will still look at that picture and say that's the picture. That's the real picture, you know. But 1983 documentary, Discovery, done by the Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
They digitally enhanced the film, and one of the persons who was enhancing the film noticed a shadow in the negative which was not obvious in the developed film. By enhancing and overlaying frames, he found what appeared to be the rear body of a creature under the water.
So while they were looking at the hoax, they seen a creature or something else under the water.
They seen like a really faint. You can only see it in the negatives. You couldn't see it in the developed film,
Yeah.
but you could see the faint outline of a creature under the water. So if it was a boat, why
Yeah.
is so much of the boat underwater?
Yeah. Oh,
The guy says, before I saw the film, I thought the Loch Ness Monster was a load of rubbish. Having done the enhancement, I'm not so sure.
Ooh. Do you have a George Spicer's account there?
I have it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great account. Do you want to read it?
Yeah, I can cover that.
Yeah.
George Spicer, 1933.
Yeah.
Him and his wife.
Yep.
This one is actually mad.
This is crazy.
He claims to have seen a most extraordinary form of animal cross the road in front of their car.
Yeah.
They described the creatures having a large body, about 4 feet high and 25 feet long.
That's crazy.
25 feet.
Yeah.
They describe a long, wavy, narrow neck, slightly thicker than an elephant's trunk, and as long as the 10 to 12 foot width of the road. They saw no limbs. It lurched across the road towards the loch 20 yards away, leaving a trail of broken undergrowth in its wake.
Like the fact this crossed a road in front of the car. So it's now land dwelling.
Exactly. This was what kind of blew it up for me, because it's like, A, it's massive.
Yeah.
B, they saw it right in front of them. It wasn't like in a lake and far away.
No.
It was right in front of them.
Road.
And C, it was on land.
Yeah.
Which it didn't seem to have legs, so maybe it's not a land dweller, but it can obviously work on land.
Like a
little
giant
bit.
snake.
Yes, like a
perhaps.
serpent or something like that. No, yeah, like I'm definitely like I'm more open to it by having read into it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was done by the fact that there were some serious, like, genuine efforts to try and find this thing using sonar and all these things, you know.
Yeah.
And like there's a question that still needs to be answered, you know. Was there something there or not, you know?